Greetings, Earthlings. Taskforce Rodia. The task force set up to investigate the disappearance of little Cleo Smith from Quobba Blowholes in Western Australia has been named Taskforce Rodia. So either it's named after the esteemed Detective Superintendent Rodwilde, Rodia, or Star Wars fans will be squirming happily in their seats. So Rodia is a really remote, jungle-covered, swampy planet. It's remote, but it's part of super highway infrastructure in terms of traveling around the galaxies. Okay, so it's part of a super highway, but it's remote and it's a difficult place to live. And the cities on Rodia, they're domed cities. So imagine this remote and this quite difficult to inhabit planet, although it's I believe it's got a breathable atmosphere. I'm assuming that's meaning for carbon-based life forms. And the domed cities, these are to allow vehicles and vessels to enter and exit. These domed cities, the domes have areas where vehicles and vessels, so vessels, I guess we'd be talking space vessels, wouldn't we? Vehicles traveling across the planet of Rodia. Kind of reminds you of outback Western Australia, where you've got remote areas and these limestone tracks, but it's also kind of part of these super highways. Indeed, there is only this western coral seaside highway and then an inland one in Western Australia. These two main arteries, okay, running north and south, and then lots of connective roads. But these domed cities could be represented, for example, by the roadhouse before the northwest highway forks off to take you into other areas where there is the CCTV camera photographing every single vessel, if you will, coming and going from the area. And south, of course, when you turn right off Blowholes Road, you go to Carnarvon, and you've got the option to go inland or to go further south. And of course there's CCTV all along there, and it's kind of like these little domed areas where, you know, there's these, you know how in arteries you've got these valves, right? It's kind of like that. So Taskforce Rodia. Maybe it's named after the esteemed detective superintendent, and maybe it has other meaning. If you're a Star Wars purist like me, you put no stock whatsoever in anything that might be labelled now 1, 2, 3, because, you know, basically they're 4, 5, 6, and they're just rot. There are only 3 Star Wars films. They are complete and perfect, and let's move forward. So I kind of found that interesting. And, you know, if you're a conspiracy theorist, Rodia is one of these planets that, you know, under the umbrella of the Great Protector, things had been a certain way for a very long time, and eventually the Grand Protector granted people the right to leave the planet. And what did they do? Well, they embarked on these careers as bounty hunters and as, you know, people that might go out and be quite powerful in the universe, in the galaxy, you know, taking people as slave and being a wheeler and dealer of other life forms, slavers, or being soldiers of fortune, i.e. a citizen of the galaxy who has particular skill, attributes that make them extremely valuable, able to name their price and go and run, you know, these military operations, run these operations for other planets, cultures, groups, individuals, etc., that don't have the same skills. Maybe this is because Rodia is such a difficult environment and it breeds a certain type of tough person, right? But I find this interesting because we've got born and bred people involved in the I hate calling it a case, but this is the terminology. In this case today, right, we've got people that are born-bred Rodinians, if you will. Okay, born and bred in Carnarvon. They know it's not, you know, this isn't a jungle, swampy planet. It's dry and it's desert. But it's a difficult environment. When people grow up in these environments, they gain skills. They can proudly say the Carnarvians. They are people from this particular region of Western Australia. There's a lot to be said for that. And why did they leave? Why were the bounty hunters, the people that became great slavers in the galaxy, the people that became these soldiers of fortune, why were they released from the planet to go out and create autonomous lives and be given a chance at fulfilling different destinies and indeed survival even of the Rodinians, if you will, by being able to propagate and be successful? Well, why? Because the planet actually started to suffer and bad things were happening and people were starving. They were starving to death. So whether you find that interesting or not, I don't know. But it's just the kind of thing that I think about. I look at everything quite holistically. When I talk about things on this channel too, I mean, I'm often really talking about 10% of what I think about. It's very difficult to be so thorough. But you all have brains, imaginations, and abilities. So you don't need me for this. Sometimes it's just nice to have somewhere to go, isn't it? And that's here on Humanimal channel. And I just want to address something very quickly before we move on. Rebecca De Bruin. Now, I don't know how to pronounce Rebecca De Bruin, if that is indeed correct or not. I don't know if she's Afrikaans. I don't know if she's South African but of Dutch descent. I don't know if she's not even from anywhere near there, but it just seems to me she might be. She came onto the channel, discovered me somehow recently, maybe through Peter Hyatt, Amazeballs, and said, that owner guy, the guy that's running the show, he's sketch. Well, says Humanimal, who the fuck do you fucking mean? Because, of course, this area, it's not owned. When you have rangers are employees of the state. Why? Because these are state assets or national assets. It's not this way. So who could she possibly be meaning? And I thought perhaps one of the rangers, or indeed the caretaker, Brett. His name is Brett. Now, if you can't give his name, if you can't give his role, and if you can't give reasons why he's sketch, this is just a childish, particularly dense, bigoted thing to say. Now, sure, as Rebecca liked to point out, I must be over 50. Yes, I am, Rebecca. So maybe I don't know the internet and how the YouTubes works. She says anyone can go anywhere if you've got a channel. Well, pooey. Well, no. Yes, anyone can have a channel. It's a privilege to be here on the Humanimal channel and to make comment. And you know, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you just look at somebody's photograph and you make judgment and you come on here and you say something like, he's sketch, that's not going to wash here, because we find that pathetic. Okay? I'll tell you this. For a person to hold such a position in such an area, you must be able to comprehend, Rebecca, what a coveted role that is, what a responsibility it is. And for somebody to hold such a position for many years, I can tell you, they will be beloved, they will be well known, and I betcha they're a fucking legend. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So I wanted to start talking about what could be thought of as the dark theories, the places that people feel like they shouldn't go, and we shouldn't go. Why shouldn't we go there? Because they are cruel ideas. These are cruel things to say. Because it's beyond kicking someone when they're down, right? What could be worse than a human being losing a child? And there's nothing worse. As Zbruk, I know that's not, I'm just going to say your moniker, your name is Zbruk. As Zbruk points out, we've been here too many times before. That's not to say that people that follow true crime deeply, avidly, jump to conclusions about parents, but the reason why I'm going to talk about this, why I feel like I'm justified to have opinions, I'm not saying these are things that I believe. I'm not saying I believe that this is what happened. The reason why I know I can talk about this and have a right to do so, this is exactly what Taskforce Rodia is investigating. This is what they are investigating. It is not true that Ellie Smith and Jake Glidden are not suspects at all in the disappearance of Ellie's daughter, 4-year-old Cleo Smith. This is just simply not true. So this is the darkest theory, and this is the mommy dearest theory, isn't it? And excuse me, I've got a little tickle. This is one of my fathers, mothers, teacups. Why? Now, many people are going to think, well, theory 1 should be stepfather. I'm not going to talk really in depth. I'm not going to try and lay a lot out here. I'm going to talk real basics here, okay? And maybe we can have a discussion down there. Maybe I'll make videos down the track. You know I will. But we're just going to talk a few little points. And sorry, I'm not trying to drag this out or anything, but I'm just trying to be a little more focused than I sometimes am. 1:30, bottom line 1:30. At another date, we will discuss speculation about what might have been going to happen, about when the family were going camping, etc. Frankly, what we need to do now, though, is talk about possibilities based on fact. This is what we do, Rebecca, at the Humanimal channel. So we're not going to come up with what if they really were going to go on Saturday but they went on Friday because something happened to Cleo before, and or you know, these are all possible, but they're not the things that we should talk about first. The thing that we should talk about first is 1:30 a.m. because this is Ellie that's talking about 1:30 a.m. This time is important. It explains something. Now, it's not unusual for parents with young children to be up 1, 2, 3, even 4 times at night with children, and it can drive you freaking wild, but it's not unusual. Just a little 1:30 awakening for a little sip of water is mild. But it's Ellie giving us this. Jake says nothing about this. Was he dead to the world in the dead of night? So had Jake drunk alcohol? I've spoken before that I didn't want to say, look, you know, let's talk about them drinking and things, but I will say this. They may not have, but they definitely do. There's plenty of photographic evidence that they drink alcohol, and they drink alcohol together, and someone might have wanted to kick back and could have fallen into a deep sleep, may have roused enough to see his partner moving around the tent in some manner, and they may have been given an explanation. Okay, so let's see if I wrote anything here that means anything. You know, was a story given to Jake for the benefit of Jake because she was moving around, she was returning. Did she not risk then zipping down the tent, because zipping down the tent would have let aroused Jake know that someone had been outside of the tent, so the tent had to remain open, maybe something like that, right? So it's this 1:30 thing. I'll let you just run for miles with how that all could work, but that's what strikes me. And of course, some of the other things we've touched lightly on, with when she left, she was wearing, and Jake's quick snap of the head. Jake really having nothing to say. Jake not mentioning he was roused at 1:30, or, you know, we don't have the time they went to sleep. They may even have been to sleep quite early. We don't know. How deeply did Jake sleep? Is he very tired from a busy shift with Rio Tinto? We don't know what hours he works. He could be exhausted, sleeping like he's dead, out like a little light, but there's some rousing at 1:30, isn't there? Or is this inserted because it would be unusual if there wasn't a rousing? Things could have happened before or after. We have to face the fact that from 1:30 to 6 a.m. is a window. Forget 6 a.m. to 6:23 to when they were locked down with the police. Ellie was locked down with the police by 9:30. Forget that. There's 4.5 hours, right? And to go where and how? And then Ellie is saying, where didn't you go? Where didn't you go? Meaning like you went everywhere, but she's like, where didn't you go? Well, maybe there is one place that Jake didn't go that Ellie knows of, and Jake didn't. Or he just happened to not go there. And that's the one place. Because although the sedan at 3 o'clock is compelling, it could have nothing to do with this case. Other people were traveling around for work at that time. This person could have been too. It could simply have been someone going to work at a mine. This might be why the task force is ensuring people are going to these mining sites and talking to workers. Was there someone that had been at the Quobba Blowholes who was due to turn up for work by 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. who would have had to have left the Quobba Blowholes at 3? 2 other workers were travelling together up the highway to go to their job early morning. They were the ones that saw a sedan leave Blowholes Road and turn south. Maybe the intention of naming Task Force Rodia is the meaning of, you come out, you go north, there's the CCTV on the roadhouse. Manila, let me just check for you. Manila Roadhouse. When you go south, well, there's a home recording vehicles. That's where the sedan was captured on video. And into town further, there's only going to be more and more. An interesting idea is if the CCTV camera on Shed 28 has captured Cleo's little voice before she was put to sleep at 8. What else has it captured, right? What else has it captured? Oh, I just wanted to get the names of the owners. It took quite a while for the owners of Shed 28 to be contacted. Law enforcement had to try many times, but this couple were away at another beach south of the area. Eventually, they were contacted. They've come up. They've gotten the police the CCTV security access, and they have said, wow, it was like Mad Max. They're coming along up towards the shack on their bikes, and there's helicopters overhead. Mad Max is an iconic apocalyptic movie that you should check out if you haven't seen it. Stars Mel Gibson. He's someone who speaks the truth. So he has said, I wanted to tell you his name. I've got it written down. I won't try and find it now. He's stated that the place was in hysterics. There was everybody was highly stressed, and the search, it was just a phenomenal, surreal day out there. This place will never be the same. I wanted to mention too, okay, I just wanted to string something together for you if you hadn't already done this yourself. You probably have. But I talked a little bit about how there's a history in this remote campsite, just like there is in a lot of places, where these urban legends, these myths, and these real life events have taken place. So it is true that people have talked about a time when they were young and someone tried to abduct them from the beachside, right? Encourage them into a car. Locals know these stories. Locals grew up hearing these stories, hearing that this happens. Be careful, especially if you're a teenage girl or, yeah, a young woman. If you're 13, 14 years old, someone just tried to get a woman in the car, a girl in the car. You be careful out there when you go. Tell your friends, right? So who knows this? Ellie does, doesn't she? And Jake. But Ellie's aware of this. These sort of things play on your mind, and they might make someone think that an abduction theory could fly, right? Because it's already got people thinking, shit, is there someone operating? They're still operating out there? Is this the same person? Right? Yeah, so local knowledge. Is this case going to come down to local knowledge? I don't know. So little Cleo Smith, she needs to be found. She's just, just a little girl who is now removed from her family. This isn't right that these things go on. It happens more and more. If you've been anywhere near the area, and if you've got a dash cam, maybe if you do any type of sport, everyone's GoProing now, anything at all. Ring Crime Stoppers, review your material. Ring Crime Stoppers. It's 1-800-333-000. If you were Jake and you were guilty, you would of course just want to stay together with the mother of your little baby, just to carry on as a little unit and have the mother of your baby raising your baby. If you are the mother of the missing girl who has something to do with that, you want to try and preserve some kind of future and family unit and stay with your child. It's got to be a desperate need to do that. You need to yoke yourself to that person and make sure you're sticking together. And if one or the other knows what would happen, right? Would we think that, why would Ellie stay with Jake if Jake was responsible? She's got family. She's not someone that has left a small town and gone to live in a big city and she's got no one and she'd have to return home, or she's estranged. No, she lives in her hometown with her support network. If something happened to Ellie and it was her partner who was not the child's mother, not her husband, she would leave with her little baby into the arms of her family. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Imagine all the different scenarios. One's guilty, knowing or other. One's guilty, does the other know or not? How would they respond? What would they try and preserve? So I've mentioned before what I think about the this overly expressive we, us. Ellie couldn't even say, no, I didn't harm Cleo. This is my daughter we're talking about here, and I need her back. I want her back. Don't harm her. No, she goes, you know, we couldn't, you know, there was, it's this yoking. I find this extremely interesting. It makes her Uno if we have to go to the dark side. All right, so I'll speak to you later.